Welcome back to the New Equity Network show. I'm Michael Yorba, your host, broadcasting to you live on the Dallas Business Authority, KVCE 1160 AM. I've got Ed Baxter, my co-host here, and Michael Hanberry, BTJ Consulting, oil and gas consultant in studio right now. We were talking about Michael's previous projects, and then I wanted to get into some new territory here, royalty projects. And Ed, I think you had a question for Michael about why he's choosing the royalty projects and really what's in a good one, right?
Right. Years ago when I was in practice or when I was actually trading energy contracts, we always thought of the royalty owner as what we call the bridge troll. Ultimately, you had a person who got paid no matter what happened. So we looked at that for years, and we had investors that went into those particular types of projects, and we always wanted to make sure that they understood them. And some people don't understand them, and some people don't understand how safe they are when it comes to participating in energy. So, Mike, can you kind of give us a feel for why royalties are as safe as they are and why they represent one of the safest projects in energy?
Well, again, it's kind of the opposite of a drilling deal where, you're in a JV, you're joint and severally liable. So if they have an oil spill, something happens out there, somebody gets hurt, everybody has insurance. And, of course, there's 6 layers of insurance, and insurance generally covers that. But you are joint and severally liable. In this particular case, you own the deed, okay? You actually own a piece of everything that comes out of the ground you're getting paid on. But the operator carries all of the liability. There are no cash calls if you're in a drilling program. If there's an expense, you're going to get a bill, okay? They're going to send out an AFE. But there's no drilling cost. There's no operating expenses. There's no capital calls. There's no maintenance or monthly management expenses. The engineered reserves out there generally are, if you're with the majors or 50-year engineered reserves, and you get a conveyance document. I mean, you get a title, you get the deed. So it's transferable. Along with no drilling risk, you still get 15% tax-free income, although unlike the drilling deal where you're getting a large tax break, here you're paying your own taxes, but you're paying on 85% of the dollar, not 100%. So if you're in California, New York, that's a huge savings. And of course, like I said, they're 1031C exchange, IRA and 401k friendly on the level of an annuity, where a municipality, for instance, or a CFO for a corporation, a large corporation, would purchase, $1 million or $2 million of this and put it in their portfolio because of how safe they are.
Great answer, Mike. Looking at the structure of in the ownership of these particular types of projects, as far as leases are concerned and ownership is concerned, and getting the conveyance document, if I put my money in a royalty program, can the amount of income I get from that royalty program, can it grow?
Absolutely. It grows several ways. I mean, that money grows because in this particular case, most of these have additional wells that they're going to drill on the property. Okay, so you may come in on a 100-well opportunity with a royalty interest. They've got 12 wells in the ground, 17 more in the next 12 months to drill with opportunity for 100. And if these are 50-year reservoir engineering programs, we're talking about it outliving you and possibly your grandkids. So not only is it going to grow just with the price of the property going up in that they're putting more production online every day, but it also, like any annuity, goes up with the price of oil. So if right now is the perfect time to buy a royalty at $50, $60 a barrel, well, knowing it's going back to 100, I think everybody expects it to get there. Even if you did nothing else, you could double the returns.
So if I'm looking at a royalty program, one of the biggest issues I should look at is the potential for new wells to go into the ground?
That's one of the things, absolutely.
What would be the other things we'd look at as far as trying to look at a deal and seeing exactly whether it's good or bad? What makes one different than the other?
Well, you certainly want to be in a sweet spot, okay? I mean, you want to be in an area where if they're going to continue to drill wells, that they've got a pretty heavy hit rate. And here you want to be after oil if you can. We've got one out right now, for instance, that is in 95% oil, 5% gas. And, of course, oil's got a little bit better return than gas does these days. So certainly you'd want to be in the sweet spot and know that they're going to be drilling in the sweet spot.
What about the partners, the kind of partners you got to worry about? Because, you know, when you get into one of these things, one of the downsides that I have is when it comes to, or with me, when it comes to a royalty project is you got no control. You know, you got no voting rights, but you've got to make sure that the people that are driving, you know, the operators that are driving the ship, that they're sustainable, they're going to be around. And what if they decide they're going to sell it? I mean, let's talk about that, because that's a part of it, right?
That's actually a very good question. And if you're with a major, those are generally very such large plays that only another major could pick them up if they were to default, for instance. So you'd be in good hands either way. And by the way, the operator is not the owner; they're just a contractor.
Right.
So if Halcon, for instance, if HK on the big board, you go look them up, they're a pretty solid company, $1.5 billion company. Who's going to be able to pick that up? I mean, it's going to be another major.
Okay. All right, Ed. More questions?
Well, I think going back to what you said earlier about the lack of control, I think that. Having been in practice for over 25 years, you have to look at where you position this as far as your portfolio is concerned. If we're looking at a royalty program in an investment portfolio, Mike, where would you say, or what percentage of asset allocation would be associated with that royalty, and where do you say it fits in the portfolio?
Well, it's definitely under wealth preservation. I mean, this is for very, very conservative guys that do not want to take a chance with their money. They're probably, average age 50 to 70, 75 years old. They've already made all the money they're ever going to make. What they want to do is manage to hold on to it and let it grow at a sustained rate. And it doesn't have to be anything sexy or fancy. And that's what this is. I mean, they come out of the chute traditionally, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10%, depending on which project we're on. And they end up going by the drilling deals like a freight train because of the additional wells as they continue to add on. But it's slow growth. I mean, you can only drill so many wells a year and add on to that. And then, of course, what's going to help us in this particular time, this very moment in time, is that they're going to buy in at 50 or 60, and the oil's going to go back to 100. So without even drilling another well, they're going to see their returns double.
Okay, so I'm getting the feeling that if there's people out there that are wondering how they can fund, say, their grandchildren's college fund or something of that nature, and they want to pick a sector that's got growth to it, this is really something more of a legacy cash flow investment than just trying to buy Exxon or some other major oil company. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, absolutely. I mean, look at it like this. I'm 53 years old, Mike. I'm not going to speculate on how young a fellow you are, but these wells will outlast you and I.
Okay. All right. Well, what are some of the things that, because you'd mentioned a litany of things, but some of the things that concern you when you look at a project like a royalty project that you want to make sure those attributes are in it to assure yourself and your clients a success?
Again, you want to try to stay with a publicly traded company or a solid independent that's got good track record and good background. Mm-hmm. Certainly, you don't want them going anywhere. You want to make sure that they're in an area that has been successful, that has a good successful track record, that they've got additional wells to be drilled out there. The more the better. Mm-hmm. That they have locations that have already been engineered, what we call proven undevelops.
Okay. Well, we know that people love to have PUDs, the proven undevelops out there. If you're looking at your oil field crystal ball going forward, Mike, talk to us a little bit about the projects you think you'll be bringing to the marketplace and going forward.
Well, I like royalty deals right now, obviously. The only things that we're going to do drilling-wise are infield, multi-well, multiple pay zone. That's like having 3 or 4 or 5 wells in one well bore. So you got more than one bite at the apple. Generally, we're infield surrounded by other production on oil fields where they just didn't flatly have the technology that we have or the hindsight. When you go back to an old oil field, you can take that well control of those old oil wells and recreate the geology and go back and hit better wells.
All right, Michael, we've about run out of time. Please, before we go, contact information if there's anybody out there that wants to know more about the types of oil projects that they can get into and how to stay out of trouble with this business.
Well, one thing you want to check out and do your due diligence on the companies that you're working with, and that's what we do for you as a consulting firm, is that we're not going to get in bed with anybody that's sideways, number one. So that's our job, is to basically do that for you. Certainly you want to do some of your own on who we are or who you're doing business with.
So Michael Hanberry, BTJ Consulting phone number?
It's 469-518-5008.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening and tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow. Good luck. Good trading. You've been listening to the New Equity Network Show.